Welcome to Scary Phantom, where the eerie meets the soothing. Every night, I bring you thrilling horror stories that not only send chills down your spine but also help you unwind for a peaceful sleep. Relax, listen, and let the stories take you away to a world where the dark is both exciting and calming. I've been working on ships for the past 6 years, but I've never seen a vessel like the Maruti Maldive. It was a very old cargo ship, with layers of rust accumulated on its iron walls. With every step, the hollow sound of metal echoed from the floor, and the constant hissing of water leaks made it seem as if the ship were a living creature breathing. I remind myself that a ship is just a big metal box, nothing more. But still, when night falls and I stand alone in the depths of the ocean, I feel a strange uneasiness in my heart. My mother used to say that the ocean is a living thing with its own moods and will. She said that the ocean only accepts those it likes within its depths. As a child, these words seemed like stories to me, but now, standing alone on these deep blue waters, I can feel their truth. I had gotten a job with a shipping company in Mumbai, and that too on the night shift. The pay was good, so I had accepted without much thought. The last few years had been difficult for me. After college, I couldn't find a job, then my father passed away, and I couldn't leave my mother alone. But when her health improved and my younger brother Rohan got admission to college, I thought I should do something. On the day of my interview at the shipping company's office, I saw an old photograph on the wall, a strange ship with unusual markings on its hull. I remember asking the receptionist, "What kind of ship is this? It looks very strange." She smiled and replied, "This is the Yatsuboro, a Japanese military vessel from World War II. It was the first ship our company salvaged. In 1972, we used its parts to build our first cargo vessel, the Maruti Maldive." The conversation ended, and I forgot about it, but the image of that ship remained somewhere deep in my mind. On my first day aboard the ship, I felt something strange immediately. The captain, Ravi Singh, was an elderly man whose face was lined with deep wrinkles from years of exposure to the sea's salt. His eyes were deep and far-seeing, as if he could see not only the ship but also the secrets hidden within it. His hair was white, but his body was strong, bearing the marks of years of hard work and the ocean's impact. He showed me around the ship, served me tea in his cabin, and then explained my duties. "Rahul, this ship is 50 years old. It came from Japan. It was built in 1972, and since then, it has passed through the hands of several owners. The previous owners were from Malaysia. Strange people, they spoke very little, and they were in a great hurry to sell the ship." The captain took a deep breath and looking out the window said, "When traveling on the ocean, sometimes it feels as if someone is watching you. It's not just water, Rahul. There's something else in it." His words made my hair stand on end, but I thought perhaps he was just trying to scare me, to bother the new crew. "Sir, are you trying to scare me?" I asked with a smile. The captain looked at me, his eyes serious. "No, Rahul. You'll soon understand what I'm saying." Then he changed the topic. "You have the night shift. You'll be working with 3 other people." 3 other people were on the night shift with me. Sanjay, who worked in the engine room, Preeti, who was the navigation officer, and Vikram, who was the security guard. The 4 of us had to monitor the ship throughout the night, while the rest of the crew worked during the day. Sanjay was a small, thin man, whose round glasses made his round face look even more innocent. He was from Chennai and held a degree in mechanical engineering. He loved engines more than people. He didn't talk much, just kept doing his work. Preeti was a contrast, tall, smart, confident. She had trained in the merchant navy and was an expert in navigation. Her eyes were sharp, her mind acute, and she wasn't afraid of anyone. She was from Mumbai, single, ambitious, and ready to steer any ship. Then there was Vikram, tall, muscular, ex-army. He was from a mountainous region of Uttarakhand, and his English wasn't very good, which was why he remained quiet. His eyes were always scanning the surroundings, as if waiting for an invisible enemy. The first night was quiet. I patrolled the deck, watching the ocean waves. It was December, and the winter season was at its peak on the Arabian Sea. The cold wind cut through my body. The ship was traveling from Mumbai to Colombo, carrying electronics and machinery. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, as I was passing near the hull, I noticed something strange. a glow coming from the ship's metal body. At first, I thought it was moonlight reflecting off the water onto the ship, but as I got closer, I realized it was something else entirely. There was a slight glow on the hull, visible only in the darkness. Symbols formed by the glow were emerging on the ship's hull, as if someone had written them with blood or some luminescent substance. I took out my torch and shined it on the symbols, but as soon as the light fell on them, they disappeared. They were only visible in the darkness. These symbols weren't ordinary graffiti. There was a pattern to them, an order, as if they were script from some ancient language. Some symbols seemed familiar to me, as if I had seen them somewhere, but I couldn't remember where. I don't know why, but seeing them made my hair stand on end. I bent down to look at them more closely, but as soon as I extended my hand toward these symbols, they vanished. I was amazed. Was this a trick of my eyes? I took out my torch and began to examine the hull. I found nothing, just the rust-covered surface of the old ship. I thought that perhaps my eyes were playing tricks on me due to fatigue. Still, I felt uneasy all night, as if someone was watching me. After my shift, I went to my cabin. It was a small room with a bed, a writing desk, and a small bathroom. I took off my jacket and lay down on the bed, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept thinking about the symbols I had seen on the hull. I took out my diary and tried to sketch what I had seen. The symbols were strange. Some curving lines like waves, some angular marks like those of an ancient script, and in the middle, a symbol that looked like a human face, but distorted, as if seen from underwater. While making the sketch, I had a strange feeling, as if someone was guiding my hand. After completing the drawing, I was startled looking at it. It was exactly the same pattern I had seen on the hull, but I hadn't been able to remember what it looked like. How then was this drawing so accurate? My sleep was gone. I left my cabin and went to the deck. Morning was breaking, the first rays of the sun appearing on the distant horizon. The day shift crew members were waking up, having breakfast. I saw the captain standing on the bridge, gazing at the ocean. "Good morning, sir," I said. "Good morning, Rahul," he replied. "How was your first night?" I wanted to tell him what I had seen, but something held me back. Would he believe me? Or would he think I had gone crazy? Being a new crew member, I didn't want to ruin my image. "It was fine, sir. Nothing special happened," I lied. The captain looked into my eyes, as if he knew I was lying. "You didn't see any unusual activity on the ship's hull?" His question startled me. "What do you mean, sir?" "Nothing," he said. "Just asking. Go, get some rest. You have duty again tonight." I went to my cabin to try to rest, but my mind was still thinking about the symbols I had seen on the hull and the captain's strange question. The next morning, when my shift ended, I headed to my cabin. On the way, I met Vikram. He too had returned from his shift. His face showed fatigue, but there was anxiety in his eyes. "Rahul," he said, stopping me, "did you see anything last night?" His question increased my heartbeat. After the captain, now Vikram was asking the same thing. "What do you mean?" I tried to sound normal. Something strange. Any sound or light, or symbols. My heart began to beat faster. "Why? Did you see something?" Vikram looked around, as if making sure no one could hear our conversation. Then he pushed his hair back and whispered, "I was in the cargo hold down below where the engines are. I heard a sound there, like someone crying. I thought it might be a crew member, but when I got there, there was no one. Then I saw something glowing on the wall, as if someone had written with hot iron." My heart raced. The same symbols I had seen on the hull, Vikram had seen them too. What did these symbols look like? I asked. "Strange patterns of curves and angles, with a face-like symbol in the middle," Vikram described. "Exactly what I had seen." "Did you tell the captain?" I asked. "No," Vikram replied. "Who would believe me? They would think I've gone crazy. People already keep their distance from me." Vikram's face saddened. I knew why he was sad. The rest of the crew hadn't befriended him. He was from a small village in Uttarakhand, and his English wasn't good, which was why he didn't talk much. But I found him sincere. I was sitting alone in the mess at noon, he told me. No one sat with me. I was heading back to my cabin when I heard that voice. It was a child's voice, Rahul. She was crying and calling for someone. In Japanese. My ex-wife was Japanese, so I understand a little. She was saying, Tasakit, Tasakit, which means, save me. Vikram's eyes had moistened. Since last week, when I came aboard this ship, I've been having strange dreams. The same dream, again and again. I'm underwater, in the deep depths, and there's something, Rahul. Something that isn't human. I put my hand on his shoulder. I believe you, Vikram. I saw something too last night. Glowing symbols on the hull. Vikram grabbed my hand, his eyes sparkling with hope. Really? You can see them too. Thank God. I thought I was going crazy. No, you're not crazy, I reassured him. There is something in this ship. Something strange. Vikram looked around, then said softly, Rahul, have you ever heard of a ghost ship? Yes, those old stories. These aren't just stories. Vikram became serious. In Japan, there are many ships that are said to be haunted. My ex-wife used to tell me about a ship, Yatsuboro. During World War II, that ship disappeared with 200 people on board. Some people say that the ship sometimes appears, especially on moonless nights. Yatsuboro. I said doubtfully, but then I remembered. This was the same name written in the picture I had seen in the shipping company's office. Yes, Yatsuboro, Vikram confirmed. My ex-wife said that experiments were conducted on that ship. Human experiments. Japanese forces conducted experiments on POWs, offering them to the sea god. How did your ex-wife know all this? I asked, becoming suspicious. Her grandfather was a crew member on the Yatsuboro. He was among the few who survived. He used to tell that the ship had started to sink in the ocean, but then suddenly stopped sinking, because something else had grabbed it, something that lived in the depths of the sea. Vikram's story sent a chill down my spine. Could this be true? Rahul brother, I think there's something wrong with this ship. Since last week, when this ship arrived in Mumbai, I've been having bad dreams every night. The same dream, over and over. I'm underwater, and something is pulling me down. Something that isn't human. What could I say? I didn't know whether to believe this or not. We ended our conversation there and went to our respective cabins. Upon reaching my cabin, I collapsed onto the bed. My eyes were closing with fatigue and sleep, but my mind was still thinking about Vikram's story and the symbols I had seen on the hull. During the day, while I was sleeping, I too had a dream. I was inside the ship's hull, and the walls of the hull were wet with sweat, but that sweat was red, like blood. From inside the hull came the sound of someone breathing, as if the ship itself was breathing. Then suddenly, a hand emerged from the hull's wall, black and dried up, like that of a corpse. Its fingers reached my throat and grabbed me. I woke up with a start, drenched in sweat on my bed. Bright afternoon sunlight was streaming in through my cabin window. From outside came the sounds of crew members. Everything seemed normal. Still, there was a strange anxiety in my heart. I told myself it was just a dream, nothing more. I got up from the bed and went to freshen up. Then I went to the mess hall for lunch. Preeti was sitting in the mess, alone. I approached her and asked, "May I sit here?" "Sure," she said and smiled. I put food on my plate and sat across from her. "How was your first night?" I asked to start a conversation. "Normal," she replied. "Checked navigation systems, monitored weather reports, usual stuff." "How was yours?" "Yes, it was fine," I said, then hesitated. Should I tell her what Vikram and I had seen? Or would she think I was crazy too? "What's wrong?" She looked at me. "You want to say something?" "No. Yes. Actually." I stuttered. "Preeti, have you heard anything unusual about this ship?" She stared at me. "Like what?" "Like, could it be haunted?" She laughed. "Haunted? Seriously? Rahul, you're educated, you've studied science, and you believe in ghost stories. My face turned red. No, I was just... The ship is old, that's why it creaks and makes sounds, she explained. When you're alone at night, your mind starts to imagine things. That's it. Yes, perhaps you're right, I said, feeling embarrassed. By the way, she said, finishing her meal, I heard from the captain that we're changing course. We're not going directly to Colombo. Why? The weather is going to get worse ahead. We'll go a bit to the east, then south. It will take an extra day. Oh, I said, so we'll be on the ship for one more day. Yes, she said. Why, are you in a hurry to get off the ship? No, just asking, I said. She gave me a suspicious look, then got up. I need to talk to the captain about something. See you later. I was left alone there, lost in my thoughts. One more day on this ship. A ship where something was wrong. After lunch, I took out my phone and called my mother. The network was weak in the village behind the jungle, but sometimes it connected. Hello, Mom, I said when the call connected. Rahul? How are you, son? It felt good to hear my mother's voice. I'm fine, Mom. I'm on the ship. Everything is fine here. And how's your new job? Do you like it? Yes, Mom, it's good. Just, there's something strange. What happened, son? There was concern in my mother's voice. Nothing, Mom. Just like that. Tell me, how's your health? I'm absolutely fine. Don't worry about me. Rohan comes to see me every day. He's cleared his exam, he's happy. That's great, Mom. Give him my congratulations. We talked a bit more, then I said, Mom, I don't know much about your family. Your parents, grandparents, we've never talked about them. There was silence on the phone line for a while. Then Mom said, Why are you asking suddenly? Just like that, I said. I was curious. You know about my parents. Both passed away in the 90s. I don't know much about my grandparents myself. My grandmother was from a coastal village in Kerala. My grandfather was a fisherman. That's all I know. And their parents. My great-grandmother. More silence. Why are you asking, Rahul? Has something happened? No, Mom, I was just curious. I had heard that my grandmother's mother was from Japan. She came to India during World War II. But these are old matters, son. I don't know much. My heart began to race. Japan. World War II. This matched Vikram's story. Mom, do you know her name? Or how she came to India? No, son. All I know is that she came during the war, perhaps from some refugee camp. I'll hang up now, son. The signal is getting weak. Take care of yourself. Bye. Bye, Mom, I said, and the call disconnected. I sat on the sofa, thinking, could my family history have a connection to all this? Was my great-grandmother connected to the Yatsaboro? Why were only Vikram and I able to see those symbols? Evening came, and then night. My day had been busy, looking for answers to these questions. Now the night shift was about to begin. The sun set and darkness fell on the ship. I prepared for my shift, wore a warm jacket, took a torch, and checked the radio. The weather outside wasn't good. Clouds had gathered in the sky, and strong winds were blowing. The sea wasn't calm either, the waves were high, and the ship kept rocking. Preeti's voice came over the radio. All stations, check in please. Bridge, check. Preeti was responding herself. Engine room, check. Sanjay's voice came. Security, check. Vikram replied. Deck officer, check. I gave my response. All stations confirmed, Preeti said. Weather is deteriorating. All personnel should be careful on deck. Over. Copy that, I said. I was trying to stay away from the area with the hull, but as an officer, I had to patrol the entire ship. Strong winds were blowing on the deck, and sometimes water droplets would also come. Apart from my torch, there was no light, as the clouds had hidden the moon. After midnight, I again reached the place where I had seen that glow on the first night. And it was there again, but this time more. The glowing symbols were now not just on the hull, but on the deck as well. These symbols were deeper than before, as if they were strengthening their existence. Seeing these symbols created a strange fear in my heart, but also a strange attraction. I wanted to see them more closely. When I looked at these symbols more closely, I realized they were moving. It was a slight movement, as if on a liquid surface, but they were moving. And the pattern was changing too. I shined my torch on these symbols, but as before, as soon as the light fell, they disappeared. They were only visible in darkness. At that moment, I heard someone coming from behind. I turned around to see Preeti, the navigation officer. "What are you looking at, Rahul?" she asked. I pointed towards the hull. "Look at that." Preeti looked in the direction I had pointed, then looked at me, as if I had gone crazy. "What? I can't see anything. How could this be?" The symbols were clearly visible, glowing in the darkness. "You can't see that glow on the hull?" Preeti looked again and shook her head. "No, Rahul. There's nothing there. You're probably tired." I didn't understand. Were these symbols only visible to me? Or was Preeti lying? But why would she? "Has Vikram told you anything?" I asked suspiciously. "Vikram? About what? Anything unusual about the ship?" Preeti raised an eyebrow. "No. What should he have told me?" So Vikram hadn't told Preeti anything. Then I remembered that Vikram had said only he and I could see the symbols. But why? Was there some connection in our family histories? Or was there another reason? "By the way, haven't you seen Vikram? He was supposed to check the cargo hold, but he hasn't returned yet," Preeti asked. My heart sank. "How long has it been?" "About an hour." An hour was too long. The cargo hold wasn't so big that someone would stay there for an hour. Something was wrong. "Let's go see," I said, and we headed towards the cargo hold. On the way, I asked Preeti, "Have you ever heard anything about this ship's history? Any strange incident or event?" "Why? Are you still stuck on that ghost story?" she asked, a bit irritated. "No, I was just asking for general information," I said. Preeti looked at me, as if thinking how much to tell me. "All right," she finally said. "There have been some incidents on this ship, but they were mostly due to human error or technical failures. In 1992, there was a fire on this ship in which 3 people died. In 2002, the navigation system failed, and the ship got stranded near a reef. And in 2013, some crew members fell ill due to food poisoning. That's it. Any disappearances?" I asked carefully. Preeti stopped. "How do you know? Had you read the file before joining?" "So people really did disappear?" My heart started beating rapidly. "Yes, after the fire on the ship in 1992, for crew members were never found. It was assumed they died in the fire, but their bodies were never recovered. In 2002 too, when the ship was stranded on the reef, 2 crew members disappeared. The search and rescue team looked for them but found nothing. And in 2013, when the food poisoning happened, the ship's cook and his assistant both disappeared. These all happened at intervals of 11 years, I realized. 1992, 2002, 2013. "Yes, a strange coincidence," Preeti said, and we moved on. "So in 2024, now, was something going to happen again? Was this a coincidence, or something else?" The cargo hold was the lowest part of the ship, where goods were stored. To reach there, we had to descend 3 sets of stairs. As we went down, the air became colder and damper. I noticed that those same glowing symbols that were on the hull were also on the stair railings, but Preeti couldn't see anything. The cargo hold door was made of heavy iron. When I opened it, a strange smell came, as if of a dead body. "What's this smell?" Preeti asked, wrinkling her nose. I don't know, I replied, but there was fear in my heart. This was the same smell that comes from graves. Are there any perishable goods in the cargo? I asked, hoping for a logical explanation. No, Preeti replied. This ship only carries electronics and machinery, no perishable goods. We went inside. Containers were arranged in rows in the cargo hold, all according to serial numbers. We turned on our torches and called out for Vikram, but there was no reply. You check the right side, Preeti said. I'll look on the left side. Stay in contact via radio. All right, I said, but I was feeling scared inside. The cargo hold was dark, with only the light from our torches, and everywhere on the walls were those same glowing symbols that were now moving like a liquid. I felt as if I was inside some living entity. Vikram! I shouted. Where are you? Only silence. I moved forward, passing between containers. Suddenly, I heard something, a faint sound of water, as if someone was swimming in a pool. But there wasn't supposed to be any water in the cargo hold. I directed my torch towards the sound. In front of container number 23B, on the ground, there was water. But this wasn't normal water. It was dark, almost black, and it had the same glow that I had seen in the symbols on the hull. I had no choice. I had to find Vikram. I went near container 23B. The container door was half open, darkness inside. Vikram, are you in there? I called out, but there was no response. I shined my torch inside the container and tried to look. There were some metallic parts kept inside, perhaps machinery parts. But no Vikram. The sound of water had now grown louder. I looked at the ground, and now the water had reached my shoes. Where was it coming from? Preeti! I called on the radio. Come to container 23B. Quickly. On my way, her voice came. I stood in front of the container, waiting. The water had now reached my ankles and was rising. Suddenly, there was a sound of something moving inside the container. I shined my torch inside. The metallic parts were moving, as if someone was pushing them from behind. Who's there? I asked, my voice trembling. No answer, but the parts were still moving. Then, suddenly, the parts fell and I could see something that shook me to my core. The back part of the container was no longer a wall, but an opening, like a window into the ocean. Dark water was coming in from there, but the water was behaving against gravity. It was flowing horizontally, not vertically, and behind that opening, something was moving, something dark and shapeless. I stepped back, but the water had now reached my knees and was thick, like oil, moving forward as if with a purpose. Preeti! I shouted. Come quickly! Suddenly, a hand emerged from the container. Long, thin, white hand, like that of a mummy. Its fingers were long, and the nails were sharp. The hand grabbed the edge of the container, and then a head emerged. This wasn't a human head. It was long, oval-shaped, and the skin was white, as if it had never seen sunlight. The eyes were large, completely black, without pupils. The hair was long and black, wet, hanging in front of the face. I was frozen with shock, unable to move. The creature turned its neck towards me and looked at me. An expression came over its face, as if of surprise, then recognition. It recognized me. Rahul. Preeti's voice came from a distance. The entity heard the voice and then suddenly retracted into the container, disappearing. Preeti came to me. What happened, Rahul? You were shouting. I pointed towards the container. Inside, there was something. Preeti shined her torch inside the container. Inside were only machinery parts, nothing unusual. And now there was no water on the ground either. What was it? She asked. A creature. And water. There was a lot of water here. Preeti looked at the ground. Where? There's nothing here. I couldn't believe it. Was I hallucinating? No, it was real. I had seen it, and the water too. Rahul, are you all right? Preeti asked with concern. Yes. No. I don't know, I said, confused. Come on, we need to find Vikram, she said. We'll check this container later. As we reached the last row of the cargo hold, we both stopped. There, in front of the wall, Vikram was standing, his back towards us. He was completely still, like a statue. Vikram. I called out again. No response. I slowly went up to him and put my hand on his shoulder. Vikram. Vikram turned, and I was startled. His face was completely blank, his eyes empty, as if there was no life in him. He looked at me, but I felt as if he wasn't seeing me at all. Vikram, what happened? Are you all right? I asked, but he remained silent. Then suddenly he began to speak, but his voice wasn't his own. It was a deep, harsh sound, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. He has come back, inside the ship, from the depths of the sea, after 500 years. Vikram was saying, but his eyes were still empty. Preeti was frightened. Rahul, what's happening? What's wrong with Vikram? I shook Vikram. Vikram, wake up. But Vikram pushed my hand away and began walking towards another part of the cargo hold, where the ship's engine room was. His gait was strange, as if his feet were sticking to the ground. Stop, sir, Preeti shouted, but Vikram didn't listen. He moved towards the engine room door and disappeared into that dark place. We should tell the captain, Preeti said. I agreed, but I understood that there was a connection between the glow I had seen on the hull and Vikram's strange behavior. There was something wrong with this ship. Yes, I said, but first let's see where Vikram went. We moved towards the engine room. The door was open. The sight inside shocked both of us. The entire engine room was filled with glowing symbols, the same symbols I had seen on the hull. Every wall, every pipe, every machine was covered with these symbols. And in the middle stood Vikram, surrounded by the glow, as if he were part of some strange ritual. But now Preeti was shocked too. What is this? She said in amazement. You still can't see anything? I asked Preeti. Preeti's face had turned white. Yes. Now I can see it. What is this, Rahul? Before I could say anything, Vikram turned towards us and said, They want to see you too. They want to choose you too. Beneath the ship, in the depths of the sea. Then suddenly, as if a switch had been turned off, Vikram fell unconscious to the ground. Sure, I'll continue the English translation. The ship was repaired, a new crew was assigned. Then in 2002, the same thing happened again. 16 people disappeared. Then in 2013, 9 people. Each time, the same pattern. Symbols, then disappearances. Why didn't you tell us? All of our lives are in danger. I said angrily. The captain bowed his head. I didn't want the crew to be afraid. And I hoped that maybe it wouldn't happen this time. There is a 10 to 11 year gap between each incident. It's only been 9 years since the last one. But what is happening? Do you know? I asked. The captain opened another page of the diary. Before this ship was built, there was another ship in its place, from the World War II era. It belonged to the Japanese Navy, and experiments were conducted on it. Strange experiments. It is said that they performed black magic experiments on POWs, offering them to the sea god. This ship was built from the scrap of that old ship. Perhaps some things remained. I couldn't believe that the captain was talking about such superstitious things. Sir, this is all superstition. Rahul, I used to think like you too. But then I saw them myself. Them moving inside the ship. Those people who are not alive but are not dead either. There was such fear in the captain's eyes that I had never seen before. What do we do now? I asked. It's only 2 more days until we reach Colombo. We will reach there, and then I will end my connection with this ship. You should do the same. Don't come back to this ship. I wanted to ask the captain if he knew that my family might have a connection to the Japanese, But I decided that wasn't important right now. The important thing now was to get off the ship safely. "Sir, can we do something? To save anyone?" The captain stared at me. "Who do you want to save, Rahul?" "The people who disappeared. They are no longer alive. Nor are they dead. They now exist in another form." "Sir, but what about Vikram? And Preeti? And the rest of the crew?" "Yes, we can do something for them. I will alert everyone. No one will go to the cargo hold alone. And minimal movement at night. As soon as we reach Colombo, I will request the shore authority to thoroughly check the ship." I felt like the captain was hiding something, like he knew something else that he wasn't telling me. But I didn't want to push any further. "All right, sir," I said and left the cabin. As soon as I got outside, I met Sanjay. He was coming from the engine room, with some tools in his hand. "Rahul," he said, seeing me, "how is Vikram now?" "He's still resting," I replied. "You were in the engine room? Did you notice anything unusual?" "No," he said, "just regular maintenance going on. Why, should there have been something?" "No, I was just asking," I said. Sanjay looked at me suspiciously. "Did you talk to the captain? What did he say?" "Nothing much," I lied. "Just discussed the weather." Sanjay said, then he moved on. After he left, I went to my cabin and lay down, thinking. The captain's diary, Vikram's strange behavior, and the creature seen in the container. What was the connection between all these? And why did incidents occur at 11-year intervals? And most importantly, what was my family's connection to all this? That day, I remained completely disturbed. I tried to rest in my cabin, but sleep wouldn't come. The same dream kept recurring. I was underwater, and something was pulling me down. And each time, the face of the creature became clearer, the same creature I had seen in the container. In the afternoon, when I was having lunch in the mess, Preeti came to me. "Rahul," she said, "did you meet with the captain?" "Yes," I said. "He told me everything, about the ship, about the incidents." "Did he also explain the reason?" she asked. "He said that this ship was built from the scrap of an old Japanese war vessel, on which experiments were conducted." "Experiments? What kind of experiments?" "He didn't explain clearly," I said, "but perhaps something like black magic. They sacrificed POWs to the sea god." Preeti shook her head. "This is all superstition, Rahul. There must be a scientific explanation for this. According to you, what's the scientific explanation for what we saw in the engine room?" I challenged. She remained silent for a while, then said, "I don't know. But it can't be a supernatural entity. Perhaps there was a hallucinogenic gas leak, or it could be mass hysteria." "Whatever it is," I said, "we need to be careful. The captain said we'll be safe until we reach Colombo, as long as we don't go to the cargo hold alone." "I still think there should be a proper investigation," Preeti insisted. "The families of those who disappeared should know what happened to them." "Yes," I agreed, "but for now our priority is to stay safe." After lunch, I went to see Vikram. He was now conscious, but weak. There was fear on his face. "Do you remember anything, Vikram?" I asked. "What happened in the cargo hold?" Vikram closed his eyes, as if recalling a painful memory. "Yes, Rahul. I remember everything. I was patrolling the cargo hold when I saw those symbols, first on the walls, then on the floor. Water was coming out of the floor, dark water, like oil. Then someone entered my mind, Rahul. Someone controlled my thoughts." "Who?" I asked. Those people who live in the ocean, those who aren't human. They called me, summoned me, told me that I'm their messenger, their connection to this world." "What did they say?" I asked eagerly. "They said that they want freedom. They are trapped, Rahul, in the ocean, but not in the ocean. In a different dimension, from where they can see our world, feel it, but can't touch it. Only through some special people can they communicate. Special people? Like you and me? Yes, Vikram said. Those who have a connection to them in their blood. Your great-grandmother was Japanese, wasn't she? My heart began to race. Yes, but how do you know? Because they told me. They told me many things when they were in my mind. And your connection? I asked. My ex-wife was Japanese, as I told you. Her family had a connection to the Yatsuboro. When we got married, a blood connection was formed through our intimate relationship. This made sense to me. That's why only Vikram and I could see the symbols, because we had a connection in our blood. And Preeti, I asked, why can she see them now? Perhaps she touched us, or came into contact with our blood, when she was with both of us in the cargo hold. Vikram offered a theory. What else did they tell you? I asked. They want freedom, Rahul. They've been trapped for 80 years, neither alive nor dead. They want release. How? I asked. They want their ship to be found. The original ship, Yatsuboro. It's in the depths of the ocean, on this very route where we're passing. If we could stop there, then... Then what? I asked. Then perhaps they could make their demand clear, Vikram said. I don't know, Rahul. There's still a lot of confusion in my mind. I thought about whether I should tell the captain about this. But no, the captain was already worried, and he wouldn't stop the ship for some ghost story. Evening came, and then night. My duty began again. Today Vikram wasn't there. He was still resting. It was just me, Preeti, and Sanjay. Rahul, there are some other people absent today, Preeti informed me. Kamal, who works in the kitchen, and Deepak, who was in the engine room. Both have been missing since morning. My heart sank. What? Has anyone looked for them? Yes, the captain ordered a search of the entire ship, but they weren't found anywhere. The captain thought they might have stayed in Mumbai when the ship departed, because their belongings are also missing. I knew this was a lie. Kamal and Deepak were on the ship. I had seen them last night. They hadn't disappeared anywhere. They were somewhere inside the ship. Preeti, I said with concern, I think it has begun. What happened 11 years ago, and before that too. What do you mean? She asked. These disappearances. First Kamal and Deepak. Then more people will disappear. Rahul, you're overthinking, she reassured me. There must be a normal explanation. I hope you're right, I said, but we're going to stay alert tonight. No one goes anywhere alone. Agreed, Preeti said. The night grew deeper. I went to the hull, and as I had expected, those symbols were there again, deeper and more widespread than before. Now they had reached above the deck, on the walls of the cabins too. A pattern was forming, like some ancient symbol. Between the symbols, faces also appeared, distorted human faces, as if the expressions of drowning people had been frozen. I felt as if someone was calling me, from the cargo hold, from below. A whisper in my own voice, but I wasn't saying anything. Rahul, Rahul, come down. We are waiting for you. I felt a strange pull in my body, as if some invisible force was pulling me down. But I remembered the captain's warning. No one should go to the cargo hold alone. I contacted Preeti on the walkie-talkie. Preeti, I'm going to check the cargo hold. Something feels wrong. Don't go alone, Rahul. I'm coming. No, you stay on the bridge. Someone needs to be at navigation. I'll call Sanjay. I contacted Sanjay on the walkie-talkie, but there was no answer. I became worried. Where was Sanjay? Preeti, Sanjay isn't responding. You stay on the bridge, I'll see. No, Rahul. It's the captain's order. No one goes alone. You wait, I'm coming. I should have waited, but that voice was continuously calling me, and now it wasn't just in my voice. Now other voices were mixing with it. Kamal's, Deepak's, and some voices I had never heard before. Rahul, come, we are waiting for you. You are ours. Only you can free us." I couldn't resist anymore. I headed towards the cargo hold, alone. As I descended, the symbols on the wall grew deeper. On the way to the engine room, I saw something that startled me: blood marks on the ground. Someone had been dragged. I moved forward slowly, my torch being my only light. The cargo hold door was open. As soon as I stepped inside, I smelled that same odor, but this time it was even stronger. I had a gas mask, which I put on. In the light of my torch, I scanned the cargo hold. The containers were the same, but now they too had those symbols on them. Container 23B, where I had seen the creature before, was now completely open, and a blue-green light was coming from inside, like an underwater lamp. I reached the last row, where Vikram had been found. There, I saw something that took my breath away. Sanjay was lying on the ground, blood flowing from his body, and next to him were Kamal and Deepak, they too covered in blood. I quickly went to them and checked their pulse. Sanjay was alive, but unconscious. Kamal and Deepak too. There were deep cuts on their bodies, as if someone had attacked them with sharp nails. Sanjay, Kamal, Deepak. I shook them, but they weren't responding. Just then I heard a faint sound, as if someone was breathing in water. I turned and looked. The blue-green light from container 23B had grown brighter, and a shadow was emerging from the container. I gathered my courage and looked towards the container. From the container, it was the same creature I had seen before. It was slowly coming out, its long, thin body moving in a flowing motion, as if it were in water. "Who are you?" I asked fearfully. The creature looked at me, its large, black eyes seeming to absorb me. "You know us, Rahul," it said, its voice sounding as if it came from underwater. "We are in your blood. Your great-grandmother was with us." "My great-grandmother? What was her connection to you?" "She was on the Yatsaboro. She was a nurse. She assisted in the experiments. But she tried to save us. That's why she survived when the ship sank." This revelation about my family history shocked me. Had my great-grandmother participated in experiments and then saved people? "What do you want?" I asked. "Freedom," the creature replied. "We've been trapped in this dimension for 80 years. Neither alive nor dead. We want to go." "Where?" "Forward, to the next world. But we are bound to the ship, the original ship, Yatsaboro, which is in the depths of the ocean." "How can I help?" I asked, though I didn't know why I wanted to help. Perhaps because I thought that if I helped them, I could save Sanjay, Kamal, and Deepak. "There's a connection in your blood. You can perform a ritual that can free us." "What kind of ritual?" I asked suspiciously. "Take us to the Yatsaboro. There we need your blood. Just a little, so that we can come into our true form, and then be liberated." This all seemed suspicious to me. These creatures wanted to take me to the original ship. For my blood? Was this a trap? And my companions? Sanjay, Kamal, Deepak? What happened to them? They resisted, they didn't listen to us. But they are alive, for now. Their time is running out. And Preeti, the captain, the rest of the crew, they will be safe if you cooperate. I was in a dilemma. Could I trust these creatures? If they were telling the truth, I could save my companions. But what if they were lying? Just then, Preeti's voice came on my walkie-talkie. "Rahul, where are you?" "I'm in the cargo hold, looking for you." The creature retreated into the shadows. "Decide, Rahul. Now. Otherwise we will choose someone else, and that will be your friends." "Preeti, I'm here, in the last row." I responded on the walkie-talkie. In just a few seconds, Preeti reached there. She saw Sanjay, Kamal, and Deepak and was shocked. "Oh my God! What happened to them?" "They've been attacked," I said. "We need to take them to the medical bay, quickly." We lifted the three of them and headed towards the medical bay. On the way, I told Preeti what had happened. My conversation with the creature, their offer, and my dilemma. You're crazy, Rahul, Preeti said. You can't trust that creature. This is clearly a trap. But what if it's telling the truth? What if it just wants to be free? And what if it's lying? What if it wants to use your blood for something else? Maybe to activate some kind of ritual to bring more of them into our world. Preeti's words made me think. She was right. I couldn't trust a strange creature just because it claimed to have a connection with my family. We'll tell the captain, I said, and see what he says. In the medical bay, the doctor checked Sanjay, Kamal, and Deepak. Their wounds are deep, he reported, but not life-threatening. They will recover, but they need rest. Who attacked them? We don't know, I lied. Now wasn't the time to tell the doctor everything. We went to the captain's cabin. Morning had broken, but the light was dim because clouds were gathering. The captain was already awake, tension on his face. Sir, I said, Sanjay, Kamal, and Deepak have been attacked. They are in the medical bay. Who attacked them? The captain asked. I told him everything. My meeting with the creature, their offer, about the ritual, and my family's possible connection. After listening, the captain took a deep breath. Rahul, I want to tell you something else. That diary I showed you. There was more to it that I didn't tell you. What, sir? When this ship was first haunted in 1992, there was also a crew member who had a connection to a Japanese family. His name was Takashi. He too could communicate with these entities. They made him the same offer, to free them to perform the ritual. And what did he do? I asked. He accepted, the captain said in a grim voice, and he too disappeared. After that, 27 more people disappeared. In 2002 too, a crew member, Li Chen, was made the same offer. He also accepted, and 16 people disappeared. My heartbeat increased, and in 2013, Rajiv Kumar. He too listened to them. 9 people were lost. So this is a trap? Preeti said. Yes, the captain confirmed. They want to use you, Rahul. They want to fully enter this dimension through your blood, so that they can come into our world. This is not a liberation ritual, it's an invasion ritual. But they are already in this dimension, I said confused. I've seen them, Preeti has too. No, Rahul, the captain explained. You're only seeing their shadow. They aren't fully physical yet. They are interdimensional beings, trapped between our dimension and the dimension of the ocean. They can only manifest through certain mediums, such as water and glowing symbols. But they can attack, as they did to Sanjay, Kamal, and Deepak, Preeti pointed out. Yes, limited physical interaction is possible, especially when they operate through a host body, like Vikram. But they can't become permanently physical without a ritual. A blood ritual from someone with the right connection. And if they become physical, then? I asked. Then they can fully enter our dimension, and then... The captain's voice became serious. Then they won't be limited to just this ship. They can go anywhere, affect anyone. So what do we do? I asked desperately. We'll change the ship's course, away from the original route, as far as possible from the sunken wreck of the Yatsuboro. And until we reach a safe port, you too will stay in my cabin. This cabin is specially protected, steel walls, and crosses and protective symbols on the wall. Preeti asked in confusion. Sir, did you know all this beforehand? The captain bowed his head. Yes, Preeti. I've been with this company for 35 years. I've witnessed all 3 incidents. I've seen each time when these entities manifested. That's why I knew this would happen again. And why didn't you warn us? Preeti asked angrily. Because I didn't know who would be special this time, the captain explained. Each time, there's someone who has a connection to them. I didn't know that this time it would be Rahul and Vikram. And now? I asked. Now we wait. We'll change course, and reach port as soon as possible. Preeti, you take command of navigation. I'll go to the engine room. The 3 of us left the cabin. In the corridor, The lights were flickering, and a creaking sound of metal was coming from the hull, as if the ship was under stress. Suddenly, the ship shook. A tremendous jolt, as if someone had struck the ship from below. We all fell. What was that? Preeti shouted. The captain looked out of the window at the end of the corridor. It's not a storm, he said. The weather is clear. Another jolt, this time even stronger. The ship tilted to one side, as if someone was pulling it. They want to take us down, I said. Into the ocean, near the Yatsaboro. Engine room, the captain shouted. Quickly! We need to increase speed as soon as possible. We ran towards the engine room. On the way, the ship shook again, this time so violently that I hit the wall. My head struck and I lost consciousness. When I regained consciousness, my head was in pain. I was in the medical bay, and Preeti was sitting beside me. Rahul, she said with relief. Are you all right? Yes, I said, putting a hand on my head. What happened? Where is the captain? Preeti's face saddened. The captain? He was in the engine room when the ship shook again. The engine exploded, and the captain, he suffered severe burns. Doctors are treating him, but what? I asked, my heart racing. His condition is critical, she said, and the ship has also gone out of control. The navigation system has failed. We're drifting. Where are we drifting to? Southwards, into deep waters. I understood those entities were controlling the ship. They wanted to take all of us to the depths of the ocean, near the Yatsaboro. I want to go to the bridge, I said, and tried to get up from the bed. No, you need rest, Preeti tried to stop me. No, Preeti. We need to do something, or we'll all be lost. I forced myself and got up from the bed. I felt weak, but I could walk. Preeti took my hand and supported me, and we headed towards the bridge. Upon reaching the bridge, I saw how serious the situation was. The navigation system was dead. The radio was also off. No one could call for help. The ship was moving in one direction, south, towards deep waters. Can't anyone steer manually? I asked. I tried, Preeti said, but the rudder isn't responding. The control systems seem to have been hijacked. And the rest of the crew? Everyone is in their own cabins. I've alerted everyone. No one is alone. Good, I said, but this won't solve anything. We're still drifting exactly where they want to take us. So what can we do? Preeti asked desperately. I thought, there had to be a way out. Lifeboats. I suddenly realized, we can leave the ship. But without the ship sending an automatic distress signal, search and rescue teams won't be able to find us, Preeti pointed out. We can take GPS emergency beacons, I suggested. They should be in the ship's safety equipment. Yes, Preeti agreed, but we need to hurry. Who knows how long the ship will remain under control? We went to the safety equipment storage and took out emergency GPS beacons. Then we announced that all crew members should come to the main deck for emergency evacuation. Soon, all crew members were on the deck. Kamal and Deepak were now conscious, but very weak. Sanjay had also come, with a bandage on his head. The captain's condition was still critical. He was brought on a stretcher. We're abandoning the ship, I announced. Prepare to enter the lifeboats. Just as we started to lower the lifeboat, the ship shook again, so violently that some crew members fell. Water began to come onto the deck, which wasn't normal because there was no storm. Hurry! Preeti shouted. Suddenly, those glowing symbols began to appear on the deck, moving like liquid. Figures began to emerge from the symbols, the same long white creatures I had seen in the container. Now they were in dozens, emerging from every corner of the ship. Get into the lifeboat! I shouted. Quickly! The crew members panicked. Some ran towards the lifeboat, some froze in shock. The creatures began to attack, injuring crew members with their long, sharp nails. We lowered the lifeboat and 10 people got in, injured crew members, and some other people. Preeti was in command of the first lifeboat. "Rahul, come," she called me. "No," I said. "I'll go in the second lifeboat. Take these people away, as far from the ship as possible." I knew that these entities wanted me. If I went with Preeti, they might pursue the others. The lifeboat descended into the ocean and began to move away. The rest of us waited. But as soon as the lifeboat moved away from the ship, something began to stir in the ocean. Hands began to emerge from the water, the same long white hands I had seen in the container. "Run!" I shouted, but it was too late. The hands grabbed the lifeboat and began to pull it down. I looked in horror as the lifeboat was dragged down into the depths of the sea. Several crew members screamed, trying to hold onto the main ship, but the hands kept pulling. Within moments, the entire lifeboat disappeared beneath the waves. I stood frozen, watching the spot where the lifeboat had vanished. Preeti was on that boat, and now she was gone. The remaining crew members panicked, some running, others frozen in terror. The entities were now all over the ship, grabbing people, pulling them towards the water. I knew I had to make a decision. If I surrendered to the entities, maybe they would spare the others. Or maybe they would take everyone anyway. In that moment of chaos, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Vikram, his face pale but resolute. "Rahul," he said, "there's only one way to end this. We must go to the Yatsaboro." But the captain said it's a trap. The captain doesn't know everything. I've been in their minds, Rahul. They are trapped, in pain. Yes, they're dangerous, but only because they've been tortured for decades. If we perform the ritual correctly, we might be able to free them without letting them fully into our dimension. I didn't know whether to trust Vikram or not, but I had no other options. The ship was sinking, crew members were disappearing, and there seemed to be no way out. "What do we need to do?" I asked. Vikram took a deep breath. "We need to get to the cargo hold. Container 23B is a gateway. We'll go through it, to the depths, to the Yatsaboro. There, we'll perform the ritual. But we'll modify it. Instead of offering your blood to bring them into our world, we'll use Earth's energy to help them move on to the next realm." It sounded like a desperate plan, but it was the only one we had. "Let's go," I said. We fought our way through the chaos on the deck, dodging the entities, heading towards the cargo hold. Once inside, we ran to container 23B. The blue-green light was now blazing from within, the opening at the back fully revealed, showing a watery passage that seemed to defy physics. "Ready?" Vikram asked. I nodded, though my heart was pounding with fear. We stepped into the container and then through the opening. It was like passing through a membrane. One moment we were in the dry container, the next we were underwater, yet somehow able to breathe. We were in a different realm now, a place between dimensions. The water around us glowed with the same blue-green light, and in the distance, I could see the silhouette of a massive ship, the Yatsaboro. The entities surrounded us, their long, thin bodies moving gracefully through the water. One approached me, the same one that had spoken to me in the cargo hold. "You've come," it said, its voice clearer now under the water. "You've decided to help us." "Yes," I said, "but on my terms. I won't let you into our world. I'll help you move on to wherever you should go next." The entity seemed to consider this. "It is not what we had hoped for, but it may be enough. Follow me." It led us towards the Yatsaboro. As we got closer, I could see that the ship was partially buried in the ocean floor, its structure covered in the same glowing symbols. Inside the ship, in what might have been the main cabin, there was an altar. On it lay an ancient book, with Japanese writing. "This book contains the ritual," the entity said. "But you must modify it, as your friend suggested. Use Earth's energy, not your blood." I studied the book. Strange as it was, I could understand the Japanese writing, as if the knowledge was flowing directly into my mind. The ritual described was complex, involving symbols drawn in blood, chants in an ancient language, and a final offering of life force. But I saw how it could be modified. Instead of using blood as the conductor, we could use the volcanic energy that flowed beneath the ocean floor. "There is a volcanic vent nearby," I said, looking at the entity. "We need to perform the ritual there." The entity's expression was unreadable, but it nodded. "It is dangerous. The ancient ones dwell there, beings older than us, from the dawn of Earth. But if you wish to try this way, we will guide you." We swam towards the volcanic vent, the entities forming a protective circle around us. The water grew warmer as we approached, and I could see red light emanating from cracks in the ocean floor. At the center of the vent, I set up the ritual as described in the book, but with the modifications Vikram and I had discussed. I began to recite the words, feeling the energy of the earth flowing up from below, through me, and towards the entities. They began to glow brighter, their forms shifting, becoming more human-like. I could see glimpses of who they once were: sailors, prisoners, nurses, all victims of the experiments on the Yatsuboro. As I completed the ritual, the volcanic vent began to pulse, the energy growing stronger. The entities were now almost transparent, their forms dissolving into light. "It's working!" Vikram exclaimed. But then, something else began to emerge from the ancient structures on the ocean floor. Massive, tentacle-like patterns of energy reaching towards us. "The Ancient Ones!" the entity cried out. "They've awakened! Complete the ritual, quickly!" I spoke the final words of the ritual, and the entities fully transformed into light, rising upwards towards the surface. But as they did, one of the energy tentacles grabbed me, pulling me down. It was cold, impossibly cold, and I felt my consciousness fading as it dragged me deeper. Then, suddenly, a bright light appeared from above, cutting through the water like a laser. It hit the tentacle, which recoiled. I was free, but still deep underwater with no way to reach the surface. The light expanded, forming a tunnel all the way up. And then I heard a woman's voice, clear despite being underwater. "Rahul, come to me." It was a voice I'd never heard before, yet somehow familiar. I swam towards the light, away from the tentacles. As I entered the tunnel of light, I felt myself being pulled upward, faster and faster. The journey seemed to take forever, yet also just an instant. And then, suddenly, I broke through the surface of the water. "Your mother didn't know. Her parents hid the truth from her to protect her. And when I found out you were joining a shipping company, you were already on the ship." I looked at my unconscious friends. What happened to them? Will they be all right? "Yes," Yuriko assured me. "They're just unconscious. Time flows differently in the dimension of the Ancient Ones. For them, only a few hours have passed since they were captured. But for you, more time has passed, hasn't it?" I nodded, wondering how she knew. "It felt like days." She said thoughtfully. "You performed the ritual, didn't you? To free the entities." "Yes," I admitted. "I performed a ritual at the volcanic vent, using Earth's energy. But then the Ancient Ones came. And I rescued you," she finished. "I created a light tunnel for you. It's a technique I learned from my mother. She also dealt with these entities." "So the entities, did they really get free?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You gave them liberation. Now they're like normal souls, who can move on to the next life." "And the Ancient Ones? They're still there, in the deep ocean. They will never leave. They've been here since the beginning of this planet, and will remain until the end. But don't worry, they stay in the deep ocean. They don't come to the surface." I tried to process all this information. It was overwhelming. What do we do now? What do we tell the police? Our ship? I suddenly realized I had no idea where our ship was. "The Maruti Maldives sank," Yuriko said solemnly. "When the entities were freed, the ship collapsed. We'll tell the police there was a technical fault, and you escaped in a lifeboat. We rescued the remaining survivors." A simple explanation, no supernatural angle. "And they'll believe that?" "Yes, Because the evidence will suggest it. The ship's wreckage is miles deep. No one will investigate. And your companions won't remember anything when they wake up. They won't remember? I was surprised. No. The interdimensional experience is erased from the human mind when they return to the normal dimension. It's a protection mechanism to prevent insanity. Only those from our bloodline, or those who have been specially trained, remember. So only I will remember. Yes, she said with sympathy in her eyes. Only you. And you will have to bear this burden alone. I looked at my friends again, feeling a strange mix of relief and isolation. They would never know what really happened, never understand what I'd been through. There's one more thing, Yuriko added. You must stay away from the ocean now. The ancient ones have marked you. If you go into deep water again, they will track you. I'll have to quit my job? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Yes. Working for a shipping company would be dangerous for you. Staying inland is the only safe option. I nodded, accepting this new reality. You saved my life. Thank you. She smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes deepening. You're my family. Sakura risked her life to save sailors. I do the same. As dawn broke over the horizon, we began making our way towards the nearest port. Preeti was the first to wake up, confused and disoriented. Rahul, where are we? Where is the ship? She asked, looking around frantically. The ship sank, I explained, following the story Yuriko had prepared. There was a technical fault. We escaped in a lifeboat, and then these people rescued us. She tried to remember, her brow furrowing with concentration. I don't remember. The last thing I remember is being on deck, and then nothing. You were knocked unconscious, I said, perhaps from a head injury. One by one, the others woke up too. Vikram, Sanjay, Kamal, Deepak. None of them remembered anything of the supernatural events. As Yuriko had predicted, their memories had been wiped clean of the interdimensional experience. The captain was also unconscious, but his condition was stable. He probably knew this could happen, but now he wouldn't remember it either. By the time we reached Sri Lankan shores, the story of the Maruti Maldives sinking due to a catastrophic technical failure was already being reported in the news. The shipping company issued statements about investigating the cause and compensating the families of those who had been lost. The crew members who had been on the first lifeboat, the one that had been dragged under by the entities before I performed the ritual. Official investigations were launched, but as Yuriko had predicted, the depth of the wreckage made detailed exploration impossible. The case was eventually closed, with the official cause listed as catastrophic structural failure due to undetected corrosion. The following weeks were a blur of interviews, debriefings, and paperwork. The shipping company paid us compensation for the trauma and loss of personal belongings. The Sri Lankan authorities eventually cleared us to return to India. Yuriko disappeared the day after we reached shore. She left me a note with her contact information and a warning. Stay away from the ocean. The ancient ones do not forget. I took her advice seriously. Upon returning to Mumbai, I resigned from the shipping company despite their offers of a desk job. I couldn't take the risk of being near the ocean again. I called my mother and told her I was coming home. I needed to talk to her about our family history. When I reached home, my mother hugged me, tears in her eyes. I thought I would lose you, she said, when I heard on the news that your ship had sunk. I'm fine, Mom, I reassured her. I've come home. That night, when we were alone, I asked her, Mom, is there something you want to tell me about your family? She understood what I was asking. You found out, didn't you? Did you meet Yuriko? I was startled. You know Yuriko? Yes, she said. She's my aunt. She would contact me occasionally, especially when I was young. She wanted me to know about our family history, but my parents didn't want me to find out. They thought it would protect me. So you knew everything? About the Yatsaboro? About the entities? Yes, son. When I was in college, Yuriko told me the truth. That's why I never went near the ocean, and why I discouraged you from joining the shipping line. But why didn't you tell me clearly? Why didn't you warn me? I couldn't keep the accusation out of my voice. My mother bowed her head. I didn't want you to believe in all these supernatural things. I wanted you to live a normal life. And I thought that perhaps these were just stories, myths. I wasn't sure they really existed. Do you believe now? Yes, she said. When your ship sank, Yuriko called me. She told me she was going to save you. That's when I realized it was all true. I took a deep breath, trying to process this revelation. All these years, my mother had known at least something of our family's dark secret, yet had chosen to keep me in the dark. My great-grandmother, Sakura. What do you know about her? I asked. She was a Japanese nurse during World War II. She was assigned to the Yatsuboro, a research vessel where medical experiments were conducted. When she saw what was happening there, in human experiments on POWs, she helped some sailors escape. But when the ship began to sink, she was caught too. Somehow, she survived and reached India in a refugee camp. There she changed her name and married a local fisherman. And the entities? Black magic experiments, ancient ones. My mother sighed. According to Yuriko, the Japanese Navy was interested in occult practices. They tried to summon ancient underwater beings to use their power in the war. But instead of controlling them, they created an interdimensional rift, which transformed the sailors and trapped them between dimensions. And the ancient ones? Who are they? Yuriko says they are prehistoric beings that evolved in the ocean, before humans even existed. They are intelligent, powerful, and can travel between dimensions. The Japanese Navy wanted to use them as weapons, but they were way out of their depth. Learning all this, I felt a strange peace inside me. Finally, I knew the history of my family. And along with that, I also learned that I wasn't alone in this fight. There was Yuriko, and perhaps others who were fighting against these supernatural forces. We talked all night. My mother told me who else in our family was involved in this secret war. Besides Yuriko, there were other relatives around the world who were protecting humanity from the Ancient Ones and their influence. What will you do now? My mother asked. I don't know, I said honestly. I'll have to leave shipping, but I need to do something. You could teach at a college, she suggested. You have the degrees, and staying inland will keep you safe. I thought this was a good idea. Teaching would be secure, and it would keep me away from the ocean. Over the next few months, I started my new life. I became a professor of marine engineering at a local college. Keeping my experiences secret, I taught students only the technical aspects. Sometimes, when a student asked a question, I would give a hint that there are many undiscovered secrets in the ocean, but I never revealed the full truth. I maintained contact with Preeti, Vikram, Sanjay, and the other survivors. They had all moved on with their lives. They didn't remember anything about the supernatural incidents, only that the ship had sunk due to a technical failure. Sometimes, when we met, I would see a strange recognition in Vikram's or Preeti's eyes, as if some memories remained in their subconscious, but they never surfaced. Captain Ravi Singh had taken early retirement. I met him once. I don't remember anything, Rahul, he had said, but I feel like you know what really happened. Tell me. I didn't tell him the truth. It was better for him not to know. It was just a technical failure, sir, I said. You saved my life. I will never forget your kindness. I also maintained contact with Yuriko. She traveled the world, tracking the activities of the Ancient Ones, and protecting families like ours with special bloodlines. Sometimes she would give me updates, or ask for advice on specific cases. This made me feel connected, as if I too was part of this bigger cause. 5 years later, I was settled in an inland city, living a comfortable life. My teaching job was stable, students liked me, and I spent time with my family. My mother's health was better, and Rohan had become a successful engineer. One day, I was grading papers in my office when a student came in. Sir, someone wants to meet you, he said. Who? I asked. A lady, She looks Japanese. She says it's a family matter. My heart started beating rapidly. Yuriko usually didn't meet formally, only in emergencies. This must be serious. I asked him to send her in. It wasn't Yuriko, but a young lady, perhaps in her 30s. "Hello, Rahul," she said. "My name is Hina. I'm Yuriko's granddaughter." "Is Yuriko all right?" I asked worriedly. "She's not well," Hina said sadly. 2 months ago, she was in the South Pacific, investigating an unusual underwater disturbance. There, something happened. The details aren't clear, but we understand the Ancient Ones have captured her. I felt a chill run down my spine. And now we want to rescue her. And we need your help. Mine. But I can't go near the ocean. The Ancient Ones will track me. Yes, that's exactly why you're perfect for this mission, Hina explained. We want to divert the Ancient One's attention, and what better distraction than you? Plus, you've performed a successful ritual before. You have experience. You want to use me as bait? I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice. No, not bait, partner. We're gathering the strongest members of our bloodline. We want to confront the Ancient Ones directly, permanently. For centuries they've haunted humanity. It's time to defeat them. The idea was terrifying, yet strangely appealing. Part of me had always felt unfinished business with those creatures from the deep. It will be dangerous, I said. Extremely, Hina agreed. But we're prepared. We have ancient artifacts, rituals, and most importantly, unity. All bloodlines together, fighting for a common cause. I thought about it. Did I want to go back to the ocean? Did I want to face those entities again? The risk was enormous. But Yuriko had saved my life. She had protected my family for generations. How could I forget her kindness? All right, I finally said. I'm ready. Tell me what the plan is. Hina smiled and took my hand. Thank you, Rahul. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. And so, I set out once more towards the depths of the ocean. This time, not as a victim, but as a warrior. This time, not with fear, but with purpose. Because in the ocean, in those deep depths, there is something that never sleeps, something that always waits. And this time, we too were ready to face it. Preparation for the mission began. Hina introduced me to the other bloodline members. People from different countries, different backgrounds, with different skills, but with a common connection. All of their ancestors had worked on the Yatsuboro or similar haunted ships, and all had that special element in their DNA that connected them to the Ancient Ones. Maria was from Spain. Her ancestors were in the Spanish Armada. Victor was from Russia. His grandfather was in the Soviet Navy. Akachi was from Nigeria. His ancestors worked on slave ships. Lien was from China. Her grandmother had survived the attack on Pearl Harbor. There were many others, 12 members in total, from all over the world. What's the plan? I asked during a training session. We need to go to the South Pacific, near Point Nemo, Hina explained. Point Nemo? I asked, puzzled. Earth's oceanic pole of inaccessibility, Victor explained in his thick Russian accent. It's the point that's furthest from any land mass. Literally the middle of nowhere. And there is the main gathering point of the Ancient Ones, Lien continued. From there, they maintain interdimensional gates, through which they enter our dimension. And Yuriko was captured there? I asked. Yes, Hina confirmed. She was studying the gates, planning to disrupt them, when she was caught. We believe she's still alive because the Ancient Ones rarely kill instantly. They experiment first, studying their victims. I remembered that cold tentacle that had grabbed me near the volcanic vent. Its touch had numbed my mind. I couldn't even imagine what Yuriko might be enduring after months of captivity. So what's the plan? How will we disrupt the gates? I asked. Multiple rituals, Maria replied. Simultaneous. At different points. The Ancient One's attention will be divided. Then one team will go directly to the center, to permanently close the main gate, and to rescue Yuriko. And me? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. You'll be in the center team, Hina said. You've successfully performed rituals before. You'll lead the final ritual. The training was intense. We practiced rituals, learned underwater breathing techniques, and also mental defense. The Ancient Ones controlled their victims' minds, so we were taught how to protect our minds. Focus on something personal, something emotional, Akachi explained. The Ancient Ones can manipulate logic and reason, but strong emotions are beyond their control. After 3 months of rigorous training, we were finally ready. Our base was on a remote island in Thailand. From there, we would begin our journey to Point Nemo. On the day of the mission, we wore special diving suits, which had protective symbols painted on them. Instead of standard oxygen tanks, we had specially designed breathing apparatus that provided regular oxygen and a special mixture, a compound that would help us resist the mental influence of the Ancient Ones. Hina gave us all a final briefing. Remember the plan. Teams A, B, and C will perform the distraction rituals at these coordinates. Team D, that's Rahul, myself, Victor, and Lien, will head straight for the central gate. We estimate we'll have about 30 minutes before the Ancient Ones realize what we're doing and converge on our position. 30 minutes to find Yuriko, close the gate, and get out. And if we don't make it in time? Victor asked the question we were all thinking. Then the support vessel will activate the failsafe, Hina said grimly. A depth charge designed to collapse the entire area. The gate will be destroyed, along with anyone still down there. It was a sobering thought. If we weren't fast enough, our own team would sacrifice us to ensure the mission's success. Any questions? Hina asked. There were none. We all knew what was at stake. We boarded the submarine and headed towards the deep ocean. The submarine was specially designed for extreme depths, but it could only take us so far. We would have to complete the last part of the journey ourselves with diving equipment. As we descended into the darkness, I thought about everything that had brought me to this point. That first night on the Maruti Maldive, the glowing symbols on the hull, Vikram's strange behavior, the creature in the container. It all seemed so long ago now. 5 minutes to drop point, the submarine captain announced. Teams A, B, and C prepared to leave first. They would get a head start to ensure their rituals were underway before we began our central approach. Good luck, Maria said, squeezing my shoulder before she and her team exited through the airlock. Teams B and C followed shortly after. Then it was our turn. Ready? Hina asked, her voice slightly muffled through the diving mask. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. The fear was back, that primal terror of the deep, of the unknown creatures waiting in the darkness. But alongside it was something else now. Determination, purpose, resolve. We entered the airlock, and then we were out, descending into the darkest part of the world's oceans. Our suits had lights, but we kept them dim to avoid attracting attention too soon. The water here was different, heavier somehow, more resistant. It was as if we were swimming through something more substantial than mere H2O. And it was cold, bone-chillingly cold, despite our thermal suits. As we descended, I began to see them. The same glowing symbols I had seen on the hull of the Maruti Maldive, but here they were everywhere, floating in the water like luminescent plankton. They moved with purpose, forming patterns, then dispersing, then reforming again. They know we're here, Victor whispered through the comms. Keep going, Hina instructed. Team A has begun their ritual. We should be getting some reaction soon. Sure enough, moments later, we felt rather than heard a deep, subsonic pulse travel through the water. The symbols scattered, many of them heading off in the direction of Team A's position. It's working, Lien said. The distraction is working. We continued our descent. Soon, other pulses followed, as Teams B and C began their rituals. Each time, more of the symbols scattered, drawn to the sources of disturbance. And then, finally, we saw it, the central gate. It wasn't what I had expected. I had imagined something structured, a physical archway perhaps. But this was more like a tear in reality, a place where the water itself seemed to fold and ripple, opening into somewhere else. Around it, ancient stone structures stood like sentinels, not built, but grown, as if the stone itself had been alive once. There, Lien pointed, in the central structure. I squinted through the murky water and saw her, Yuriko, suspended in some kind of transparent case, surrounded by those tentacle-like energy patterns I remembered from the volcanic vent. She appeared unconscious, but alive. "We need to hurry," Hina said. "I can feel them coming back. The distractions won't hold them much longer." We swam toward the central structure. As we got closer, I could see that the case holding Yuriko was made of the same energy as the tentacles. Not physical, but not entirely energy either. Some kind of interdimensional matter. "Rahul, you start the ritual," Hina instructed. "Victor, Lien, help me with Yuriko." I took out the items I needed for my waterproof pack, specially prepared crystals, a small vial of my own blood, drawn earlier, under controlled conditions, and a tablet inscribed with the ritual words. Positioning myself in front of the gate, I began the ritual. The words were difficult to pronounce underwater, even with our specialized breathing apparatus, but I had practiced extensively. As I spoke, the crystals began to glow, first with a soft blue light, then brighter, changing to green, then yellow, then a fierce, burning white. I could feel the gate responding, the tear in reality fluctuating, growing unstable. But I could also feel something else, a growing presence, an awareness turning its attention toward us. The Ancient Ones had noticed what we were doing. "Hurry," I urged the others, not taking my eyes off the ritual. From the corner of my eye, I could see them working on Yuriko's case, using special tools to disrupt the energy patterns holding it together. It was slow work, delicate. The ritual was reaching its climax. The final words needed to be spoken, and then the vial of blood broken over the crystals. This would create a counter-frequency that would collapse the gate, sealing it permanently. But just as I was about to speak the final phrase, I felt it, that same cold, numbing sensation I had felt when the tentacle grabbed me years ago. But this time, it wasn't physical. It was in my mind, trying to take control. "I resist," I heard Victor stutter through the comms. "They're trying to control." I focused on my personal anchor, as Akachi had taught us. For me, it was the memory of my mother's face when I had returned home after the Marudi Maldive incident. The relief, the love, the knowledge that I was part of something bigger than myself. The cold receded slightly. I pushed on with the ritual, speaking the final words. Around us, the symbols were converging again, forming into those tentacle-like patterns, reaching for us. "Got her!" Hina's triumphant voice came through the comms. "Yuriko is free. Start the extraction." I broke the vial of blood over the crystals. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The white light exploded outward, engulfing the gate. The tear in reality began to contract, the edges sealing together. But the Ancient Ones weren't giving up without a fight. The tentacles were all around us now, reaching, grasping. One caught Lien's leg, and she screamed through the comms. "Go!" she shouted. "I'll hold them off." Before we could stop her, she had detached herself from our group, swimming directly into a mass of tentacles, detonating some kind of device she had been carrying. The explosion wasn't large, but it was enough to disrupt the tentacles temporarily, creating a path for the rest of us. "We have to go," Hina said, her voice breaking. "The gate is collapsing. This whole area will become unstable." With Yuriko between us, Hina, Victor, and I began to ascend as quickly as we could. Behind us, the light from the crystals was growing impossibly bright, the gate shrinking to a pinpoint. And then, with a soundless implosion, it was gone. The shock wave hit us moments later, propelling us upward faster than was safe. My ears popped painfully, and I felt the pressure change threatening to give me the bends. But our suits compensated, releasing the special gas mixture that would help prevent decompression sickness. We kept ascending, not looking back, though I could feel the cold presence of the Ancient Ones still reaching for us, growing weaker as we rose. The ascent seemed to take forever, but finally, we saw the lights of the submarine above us. We were going to make it. As we entered the airlock, I took one last look down into the depths. The symbols were still there, but fewer now, scattered and disorganized. The ancient ones had been weakened, their main connection to our world severed. Inside the submarine, medical staff immediately took Yuriko. She was alive, but in a coma-like state. "She'll recover," the doctor assured us. "Her mind is strong." The other teams had already returned, or most of them. Team C had lost 2 members, and with Lien, our casualties stood at 3. 3 lives to save countless others. As the submarine began its journey back to the surface, I sat beside Hina. "Did we do it?" I asked. "Is it over?" She looked at me with tired eyes. "This gate is closed. But there are others, smaller ones. Our work is not done, Rahul. It may never be done. But today we struck a significant blow." I nodded, understanding. The ancient ones had been on Earth for millions of years. They wouldn't be defeated in a single battle. "What now?" I asked. "Now we rest, recover. Then we plan our next move. And you?" She looked at me appraisingly. "You have a choice to make. You can go back to your inland life, your teaching job, or you can join us permanently. You have a gift, Rahul. A connection that makes you valuable in this fight." I thought about it. About my comfortable life inland, my students, my family. And I thought about the depths, the ancient ones, the ongoing battle that most of humanity knew nothing about. "I'll join you," I said finally. "But on one condition." "What's that?" "I want to create a training program for others like us. If there are more people with our bloodline out there, they deserve to know the truth, to be prepared if they're ever targeted." Hina smiled. Yuriko would approve. She always said education was our best weapon. And so my life changed again. I didn't abandon my teaching career entirely, but I took a research position that allowed me more flexibility. Officially, I was studying marine archaeology. Unofficially, I was part of a global network fighting an ancient enemy, training the next generation of defenders. Yuriko eventually recovered, though she was never quite the same. The time she had spent in the Ancient One's captivity had changed her, given her insights into their nature that proved invaluable to our cause. And me, I learned to manage my fear of the deep. It never went away entirely, that primal terror of what lurks beneath the waves, but I controlled it, used it. Fear, after all, is just the body's way of recognizing danger. And in the depths, there is certainly danger. But there is also wonder, mystery, and a battle worth fighting. For as long as humanity sails the oceans, as long as we build our ships and explore the deep, we will need defenders against what lies beneath. The Ancient Ones wait, patient as the depths themselves. But now, they do not wait alone. We are watching them, fighting them, ensuring they remain in their realm and not ours. For in the ocean's deepest corners, where light has never reached and pressure would crush a human body in an instant, something ancient stirs. Something that was here before us, and may well be here after us. But for now, for today, we have won a victory. And in the battles to come, we will be ready. Because in the ocean, in those deep depths, there is something that never sleeps, something that always waits. And now, we too are waiting.